We are here. We're here, man. Since we're here, let's do it right. Ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about being one of the richest men in the world, it's because of great relationships like I have with our next guest. Great friends doing great things. This brother is the head coach of the John Jay College women's soccer program. This past season, he was named City University of New York Athletic Conference Coach of the Year for the sport of women's soccer. And one of the last times I was talking to him, he was preparing his Lady Bloodhounds to compete in the conference championship, a game they would indeed win. The head coach of the John Jay College women's soccer program, Ajani Clunie. What's up, champ?
What's up, Will? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to have you here.
Bless up. Happy New Year.
Same to you, brother. Same to you, man. When I was talking to you and found out all the amazing things you was doing, I was blown away. I was blown away. Specifically, the Conference Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, during these college seasons, the conference sends out a ballot to all of the coaches. They vote on Player of the Year. They vote on All-Star teams. They vote on Conference Coach of the Year. So this award was given to you by your peers,
By
man.
my peers, yeah. My first time being involved with the process, like being in the meeting, All-Star conference meetings. I've been like on the back end of it, knowing like what's in it with my former boss, Casey Summers, there and our relationship and talking about the All-Star process. But this is my first time being in that room on the Zoom.
Right.
Now, in that conversation, talking about All-Stars, Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year, so forth, and Coach of the Year.
Why do you think your peers selected you?
I have no idea. Like you can't, you can't. First and foremost, you can't vote for yourself.
Right.
So I mean, I knew that going in already. You have to, put in a statement about yourself. And me, I'm the type of person I don't like really describing or talking about myself or why you feel like you should get certain accolades or certain recognition. So going, I didn't know who they were gonna select because this is my first year as the actual, head coach. I've been an assistant for the past 6 seasons, associate head coach in 2019. But the coaches who are the other head coaches for the other schools within the conference, I've known them, like the head coach at Brooklyn College now, Tita, who's the head coach at York College before. I knew him from working together with the New York Cosmos, so forth. The head coach at Lehman, she was a player when I was assistant coach there back when I started 2014. And then the head coach at CCNY, Louis, who's been there for a while. So you build those relationships and so forth, and people see you as an assistant, coming up the ranks, I guess.
Nah, man, you being modest. Let's talk about your team then.
You're right.
As you mentioned, you were an assistant for 6 years,
Yeah.
and this was your very first year at the helm of the program, and you were selected Conference Coach of the Year. How would you describe your team? Like, what type of season did you guys put together?
It was full of a lot of grit, resilience, flexibility, being adaptable.
Yeah.
Those were the main adjectives I was using coming in, like being flexible, adaptable. We didn't know what to expect coming back
With COVID?
With COVID, yeah. Since we missed out on 2020, didn't know what the roster sizes were gonna look like. I even found out some players weren't coming back a month before preseason, couple weeks. Some crucial players, who were part of our first conference championship back in 2019. So having to adapt with that. But I knew during that whole time, during the COVID, during that little break we were off, I was recruiting, I got in 2 transfers from other D3 programs who were fortunately coming for grad school. So that was a blessing and amazing help for our team. But we were short numbered. We only had 19 on the roster this year, and our average is about 23, 24.
So you were short, and indeed, what date did you learn that you were going to be the head coach of the program?
I knew sometime in March or April.
March 2020?
Around that time that, some things were probably in the works or so forth, and, gearing up to possibly, to take over the program.
Right.
So it wasn't, I knew a day like this would come or so forth. Either if I'm at the program or even if I'm at John Jay, if I was moving on to another program or so forth, like the opportunity would present itself. But I've always been preparing and learning along the way as an assistant, just learning the craft of what it takes to be successful in college athletics.
Long-time assistant. You you guys won a city championship 2019.
Yeah,
The
first one.
The last season before the pandemic,
Yeah.
basically. So you guys kind of like reigning champions, even though things are different because of the pandemic. But the last time that conference played soccer, you were a part of the championship team. So that coach moves on, and now you're thrusted to the lead chair. How is that? Because as a new coach, I'm sure you want to put your staple on the program, but then there's also things that's been successful. So you want to keep those in place. Like, what was it like taking over a program that you were an assistant and that had success in the past?
You know, starting in 2014, like we had the team before John Jay, we had like 2 wins, 3 wins every year. We progressed our win percentage by at least 1 or 2 wins every season. But I credit that down to Casey Summers, who was the former head coach.
Right.
But me coming in, it wasn't anything like a dictatorship. We helped to build a program together. I felt like I had a substantial hand in leading up to 2019, so when we won our first championship, even if I wasn't the head coach, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I was out there on the road recruiting many days, many nights, like us working together, fundraising, different things. We need to attract players to John Jay, you know, to build a program up to where we need to find those club and caliber players that you need to win, you know? So even behind the scenes, you know, like head coaches get a lot of credit, which is, you know, they're in the forefront of everything, but you need a successful team. Like, I tell you, when I was an assistant, I only missed 2 games, like, as an assistant, like on the sideline, 2 games ever for those past 6, 7 years. Like, I was there every day. Anybody could tell you I was there. Right. So I think that's what you need in order to be successful, like getting your hands dirty and knowing how the program is. So me taking over, like, I know part of it, you know, I helped to like bake the cake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that instance, so me coming on, I just put the icing, you know, kind of like on top and make the little decorations and so forth now. But now I'm putting my own philosophy and my spin on it. I think I credit it down to being, if you have a good team coming in, if you take over, there's a change in personnel and head coaches. The relationship that you have with your players beforehand plays a long way into how that transition will work out for you, me becoming the head coach. If I was like an ass or if I wasn't somebody that was involved with my players, made it a duty to know them, you know, be invested in them as student athletes, I don't think that respect would have been there. And let's say,
How did they receive you now being a head coach? Because it is different, no?
yeah, it is different, yeah. Like everything comes to you, like those texts, those calls, everything first starts coming to you, those emails about things. So yeah, everything falls on your plate.
Yeah. And even as an assistant, and I know this firsthand, sometimes they will confide in you different things that maybe they don't want to express with the head coach. And now you the head person, they might be kind of running to tell somebody else about you now. So it is different.
It is different, but I make it a key thing in my philosophy. I'm all about transparency, like 100%. Like, you know, what the coaching staff says and what the head coach says is, you know, final, but I like to have that relationship with my players to know, like, okay, what can we work on to improve on to get better, what things need to be tweaked, not just like as a dictatorship, what I say goes, but I like to get some input and see like how they do them, because they're the ones that are out there
For sure.
that are working.
For
you
sure.
know what I mean?
For sure. What'd you learn about yourself this season? Is there something about the job that surprised you? Like, oh snap, I ain't know this what the head coaching position was about.
I just think a little more credit to detail, like detail and everything. Meeting times, recovery, travel, all those things that I probably wasn't involved with as an assistant.
Yeah.
Like you get to see that first and foremost, that communication with other schools, so forth, conflicts and scheduling, contracts, some of those things that when you're a head coach, you're like, all right, like this is
it.
This is really it, you know. But I think the preparation before in those past 6 years, 6 seasons has helped me, you know, to where I am today. And I think it's just the most challenging thing during that time was just day by day, like just being flexible with the changes happening with COVID.
Yeah.
There was a time we were out, like we had to go into a protocol, you know what I mean, during the season.
During the
like,
season?
Yeah, during the season. And, you know, it gets stressful because, you know, you're working towards something. And I have this thing coming in as part of my philosophy is banner mentality, you know what I mean? But, you know, people think about banners and, you know, what you put up there, but it's also like what do you want your banner to say, you know, when you're done, like as a student athlete? Do you want to just have accolades of athletics, or is it you as a person, you know, growing and evolving and progressing? But the most challenging thing was, like I said, day by day dealing with the different protocols, not knowing, come back. Then we went through a strain of injuries and so forth. So we were depleted with our number size already being low. So I think it was just keeping the morale positive and letting everybody know, like, hey, like, let's just be thankful, be blessed that we're back playing again. You know what I mean? Appreciate every moment.
For sure. Did you hire any assistants this season?
I hired one assistant, one young lady I hired, and then I had my other two assistant coaches who were within the program before. But this coming year, probably looking to add some grad assistant coaches, some former players who are currently in grad school, just to help out more.
So you were an assistant with some of your assistants now. You guys were all a group of assistants as one.
Yeah.
And then you were sent to the head coaching position.
Yeah.
Now, from my time in the military, like we would all be lower ranking soldiers, and then
Yeah.
one of us would ascend to sergeant and stuff.
Right.
That's a challenge too. Like to be peers, and then the next day you're their supervisor.
But I think it's about the relationship that you have with these people that you're working with. So if you have that respect, and the same thing I tell my players, like, if you respect each other, you should go up to each other and hold each other accountable for the things that, you know, whether you're doing right or you're not doing right or what you need to do. But I think the relationship I had, even my assistant coach, Agnes Sansarides, who I made associate head coach. Now, just before when I was assistant, he was very influential, into our program, our video analysis, a tactical analysis. So a lot of times during sessions, people don't know, like, sometimes in practice, the assistant coaches are running a lot of the sessions. The head coach is just there making sure things are run. But maybe there's different divisions or so forth. But at our level, I know my associate head coach, Agnes Sansarides, and then other goalkeeping coaches. My goalkeeping coach, Danny Vergara, is very, you know, influential in being there behind the scenes. But I think it's all about that respect. So me and Agnes had that relationship, and I think that respect with each other. So me stepping in to that role, it's kind of like, well, I was the second in command, I think, you know, for all these past seasons. Not warranted that any of them couldn't step up into it, but I think it just comes with the time and that relationship.
Championship game, man.
Yeah. Which one? 2019 or
Nah,
this year back to back?
This one with you at the helm. Tell me about the night before, man. What you doing? What's your mindset like? You laying low? What you got going on? You remember?
Yeah. You know, it's funny enough. The first day of preseason, I told the ladies, I was like, November 6th, and they're like, yo, what's that? What's that? November 6th, and I'm like, yo, that's the date for the final. Like, you didn't know already. So I think coming up to the final day, like on the 5th. It was just making sure no one tests positive for COVID.
Hey, that's real.
You know what I mean? In that week, just making sure everyone is safe. I think when the season comes around, I was going in season mode. So like people always know, my peers, my family, like once August comes around, like it's go time. Like find me in November, like Wyclef. You know what I mean? I'll be gone till that time. So just find me during that time, but I'm really locked in. Like I told some of my family members during that time, like they had like a family game night one time during like October. So I pull up, like, I think I work late on Friday, like I get out of school, I come over, we do family game night. I fall asleep, like, you know, at the game night, and I'm like, yo, the next day I got a game, you know what I mean? So like even after the season was over, and I see them, they're like, yo, this nights I was falling asleep. You know the reason why, you know, because you're just in that grind, in that mode. But the night before, it's very lay low. Just make sure we have a formation, all our tactics thing.
What's the message to the team? Because I've seen from different coaches different things. It can be, yo, this is the biggest game of your life, down to, yo, it's just another game.
Yeah, I think every game you should play as a final. Like, it should be your last game. Like, because you never know what's going to happen. Appreciate every moment is what I say. So I think for the returning players that I had, Katie Healy, who was the reigning conference player of the year, should have got player of the year this year, but that's another story. And some other things. I think the players knew the situation for some of the new players coming in, and maybe one of their first conference final appearances to play in. So it might be nerve-wracking, but I think it's another game. But I always tell them, just go and have fun. Like, we know the tactics, we know what we have to do, like the game plan already. So nothing ever changes, and we went well in the conference. We went undefeated. Also, no goals conceded, all shutouts. So I think that was the first for our program. I think we didn't accomplish that in 2019. We came close in no goals conceded. But this year, I think our defense and our goalkeepers were very solid. And I think the team knew that going in, like our defense and our goalkeepers were solid. Our offensive output this year was a little bit low, but I think we had the players who had that experience, you know, that caliber to get it done. So really the night before, just we had a team brunch, like, you know, that Friday. So I think that was good too. Testing, and we spent a lot of time together, just having meals, doing those things that we missed out in 2020. So I credit that to the team and the captains and all of us just being kind of close knit, you know, coming down to that moment and just enjoying the moment before we went into the game.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Unity. It's not required, but it's a bonus.
Yeah.
When you're on the field with brothers and sisters that you can rely on, that you can count on, that you know got your back, that can make a difference. Now the game, you guys won. 1-0 shutout.
1-0, yeah. One love, as we say.
One love.
You know.
What was the story of the game for you? What was it like pacing up and down that sideline in the championship game?
I think a little more reserved than 2019. 2019 we went down.
Who was reserved?
I mean, I think I was a little more reserved, like on the sideline. Okay. This year. People probably see me on the sideline like, you're not reserved. But I think this year I didn't feel like nervous at all. People were saying there was pressure, like, oh, it was pressure your first year as a head coach.
Sure.
How do you do it? But I never felt that. To be honest, I never felt the pressure like, oh, you have to win. Like, I knew it was the date, like, it was the expectation to win. But I wasn't putting that pressure on myself, like, oh, you got to win, you got to win, you got to win. It was like, if it happened, it will happen. Like, we had the right pieces in place, the pieces of the puzzle, as I call it. And everyone showed up, and we made the puzzle complete. But that, like, when we played Lehman before at their ground, their field is you know, not the most spectacular in the CUNY playing at Lehman. We won that game 1-0 too. So coming back in, I knew it was gonna be a tough game. It'll be very gritty, tough. They play very physical. They have a couple players that play they're very physical in that game. The first game when I played, she had almost a black eye, got kicked in her eye from that game. So
Yikes.
I knew the intensity coming in from our players was going to be high, and also from Lehman. I don't know, some kind of Aki things happened before the game. We're the home team. Lehman is clearly the away team. They wear the same color socks as us as a home team, so they have on white socks. So according to the rules of the game, NCAA, home team has to change that. But you know, we didn't. Well, it's up to me. Like, we're supposed to bring both pairs of socks or so forth. So we had to tape up our socks before the game, before the warm-ups. Things are going on.
Tape up the socks so they appear to be a different color?
Yes. So because Lehman, who's the away team, they wore white socks knowing they're the away team. I don't know why they would do this.
So why you didn't tell the conference commissioner to send them to go change?
So according to the rules of it, the home team has to change.
Which was you?
Yes.
Okay.
So we came up, we were scrambling, officials were talking to us. I don't know. I was very disturbed by that before the game.
Johnny, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This championship game, and you messing with my head.
Exactly. This is what I thought.
Y'all didn't have an extra pair?
No. And that's the thing I know. I'm gonna tell my team. Always bring
Yeah.
both color socks and so forth. But I knew it was something they were probably doing on that side. They know that like their coach played in the conference for years, played for Lehman,
Right.
played in conference finals, like played in playoffs. So to not know that you were in the same color White Sox as the home team, you're the away team, to me makes no sense. To me, I was just very egregious by that.
Bro,
I made some of the conference officials know that too as well. That happened. So that was a whole big scramble before the game. I tell you honestly, before kickoff, I didn't really get to speak to my team. Like warm-ups are going on, different things happening. I have to talk to play-by-play announcers, giving them some backstories on my team and my players, and this is going on. And my associate and my other coaches are handling talking to the team in warm-ups. And I'm here trying to figure this out with the socks on. We to put pre-tape around the socks. That's why you see some of the pictures. No, it's not a new style of socks.
Yo.
We had to do that before the game, and I'm happy that that we got the win, so they could hold that one.
Yo, bro, hold on. I know these young people. Hell, when I played, my uniform was a big deal. I'm going in the game, I'm feeling good, and now I gotta run and scramble and put tape on my joint.
Yeah,
Yo, that's mess with people's psyche.
yeah.
Biggest game of the year.
But I think the ladies, they did well to handle that. Like we gave up a penalty, quick fast break. Our goalkeeper saved the penalty kick, so we, going, and she ends up spraining her ankle like on that play. One of the first kick saves and plays the whole game, like stand out on that, and the defense and the midfielders. Like, so I credit my team a whole lot. Like they knew what it takes. I often say to them, like when we're training, those other teams are sleeping right now.
Yeah.
When we're up at practice, the other teams are sleeping, enjoying their relaxation, their pillows. They don't know what hard work and the determination looks like, getting up, coming to commute, train from 7 to 9 in the morning. That's what builds championship, those pressure builds diamonds.
That's amazing, man. You guys were able to persevere. There was some roadblocks early, but you ain't let that stop you, man. That's phenomenal. The championship.
Yeah.
What do you remember about, I guess, the celebration? What stands out to you after the championship is won and the festivities take place? Like, what stands out to you?
I think just the appreciation and the joy that the players had. Like the first championship, that was like, I think the feeling when the clock was running down, that will always be like a different feeling, I think, than the second one, because you were striving or attaining to try and get that championship so hard when it was probably in your grasp, slipped out your hand, for the past years when we came close. So the first one will always feel special, but that second one, I think because the players really believed in each other, they believed in myself. Like even when I went over and they came and they like ran over, hugged me, I was just like, I went in and hugged each and every one of them. Made sure to do that, but it felt good. I just think we were kind of like rushed out of there at Brooklyn College by the conference. So, it's like the typical, usually, you get to celebrate around a little bit. But I think because of COVID, it was a little bit different with the celebration and so forth. They said they were going to dump water on me. I told them not to because of the weather being too cold. But the weather was actually nice that day. But I think a whole bunch of range of emotions go through your mind from that first day of preseason till now. What it takes to get there, like who's there supporting you from the first day to the last. But it definitely felt good.
With the championships, you were fortunate to win one as an assistant, and now you won one as a head coach. What is it about a championship that is special? For me, I had the privilege of winning 2 championships when I was a college athlete at Kingsborough. It's one of the rare moments in life where it's kind of like a finality, like the job is done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I can't imagine anywhere else in life. Like even if you have a baby, well, that's a great occasion, but it's the beginning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But a championship like this season, put a bow on it. It's done. So for you, like, what is the, I guess, most special part of a championship?
I think the most special part of the championship is seeing, I think, just how far, like, you see the players' progression. I think, like, seeing them evolve into certain situations, even socially, playing wise. I think that's the best thing of, like, the championship. And I think that relief, when you could just say, like, it's over, like, you sit down, you're like, even though, like, the goal of ours is to try win a game in the NCAA tournament,
Right.
like, win a round in the tournament. Like, that's been the goal the past three seasons. Once you get that championship, what's the next goal is,
Right.
see what you could do dancing in the tournament. But I think it's once you take that break, you're just like, it's sort of a big relief, you know what I mean? But when you're in the thick of it, day by day, like, there's no time to really think about, like, oh, when it's over, how is it gonna feel? I think you're just doing the work.
Yeah.
Thanklessly, most of the time you're just doing it to get it done. But I think the best part of the feeling is when, you have those conversations with your players
Yeah.
and they're talking to you and they're just like, thank you, or so forth, or the appreciation of it and just seeing them enjoy it. I think that's some of the best parts of the championship. But I think along the way is definitely, for me, is seeing that progression.
Yeah.
Of the players who really step up, who improve, like, socially, like, from the first day, some players, you don't even hear them people word, and then the last day they're like probably the most exuberant ones on the bus and
Yeah.
traveling and so forth.
Yeah. It is amazing journey to be with a group of young people. You mentioned the NCAA tournament. Multiple sports, basketball too. You win your conference championship and then you go on into the tournament. You guys suffered a big loss in that first round. What is it going to take to win on a national level? Because even in the basketball area, especially in the CUNY, we struggle when we go to the national tournament. What's it going to take? What's it about New York City? What's it about the conference? Like, how can we get to that next level?
I think really about getting to that next level, I think starts one with the program, coaching staff. Like, if they have a good philosophy, a good program. Like, I think a lot of the schools in the CUNY, like, you see, are dominant. Like, even from Brooklyn College's women's basketball team has been pretty, dominant over the years. Like, building programs, traditions, cultures. I think first you have to start with that. Like, once you have that, something that the student athletes can buy into, they're going to come back year by year. You're going to attract more players. Winning a conference championship definitely brings in and attracts higher caliber players. I think the next step, I think across the board for all the CUNYACs, I think is maybe goes down the facilities, different techniques that we use, training, recovery, things to just attract. You need to attract that high caliber student athlete too, as well. So you see some of the programs, so winning the national championships come from different regions, maybe in the Northeast, from the Boston, NESCAC areas. You see predominantly, maybe from the Midwest or so forth, who are winning, national championships at the Division III level. So I think it takes the conference, I think, overall to step up and progress on a huge scale, like all across the board. I think for you to reach that level, but I think a lot of different factors go into it, from training, recovery, facilities, technique, strength and conditioning. A lot of those different things go into play into reaching that next level. Preparation. I think the athletic departments as well, like, definitely have to be at a certain level. In preparation, and those things for those teams to perform at that high level. It takes a lot, like traveling, busing, whether, like, mind you, like, we drive to our games home and away. Like, we drive 15 passenger vans. I see some teams, they have buses, different things like that. That plays a big difference, in playing and competing.
Those are challenges that are unique to the city because you mentioned areas like Boston, Mideast, they got grass on grass on grass. So those are challenges that may be unique to the city. But as you mentioned, like, as a conference, like, this is the Big Apple, man. We got to start getting on that national stage. You I think it can be done, but it's going to be a collective thing. Yes, we're competing as different schools, but collectively, like you said, strength and conditioning, like I think we could all up the ante as a group. Where does John Jay, I guess, practice and play games?
So we practice at DeWitt Clinton Park, which is like 54th and 11th, like 3 blocks away from campus.
Okay.
From us, down the Hell's Kitchen, right close to the West Side Highway, close to the Intrepid Museum and so forth. So that's a park we've used since 2014. Since then, it's been like renovated. It hasn't had, it didn't have the best turf at first, but since we practiced there, baseball, softball, men's soccer sometimes practice there. Every year we do a community service project there, park cleanup.
Right.
We've done there around 9/11 commemoration time. So I think through our work with that community cleanup and so forth and practicing there, we struck a deal, our old athletic director with the Parks Department, to work to get new turf, things like that, goals in there, which really helped out, I think, our program. But I credit that to, from a head coach who's really adamant about fixing some of those things, facilities wise. So, I mean, it is a challenge, but I think we're blessed with having that right there close to school. Some of the other schools maybe a little bit less fortunate with some of, their field situations and so forth. And that's like a challenge that we have to deal with in the city.
I'm very proud of you, not just because you won a championship and you're the conference coach of the years, but from my time as a student athlete in this conference and also an assistant coach in this conference,
I seen you out there.
I know these ain't the most lucrative opportunities, bro.
Nah, I told you I was people at the own school asked me like, yo, what are you still doing here? Like this is admin, like when I was assistant.
Yeah.
Who's there full time, like, yo, what are you still doing here? Working. I'm like, what? Like you have to grind.
You
like,
gotta grind, eh?
Some people don't know about that work, that work ethic. Like you have to grind. Like I was part time. I wasn't getting nothing. I was probably getting $3,000 for a year as assistant when I started.
Tell me about those crazy times when you got practice, you got games, but you also got this other job. Like when you got rent due. Like paint a picture for me when it was craziest. You said you had 6 years as an assistant, 1 year as a head coach. When, like you said, it was just a grind, man. It was a test of your will to even hang on and be able to work as an assistant.
Yeah, I think if you want something, you're definitely gonna go for it. Like, I wanted the team to be successful. I thought like we could win. Like every year I told the head coach, I was like, you're gonna win coach of the year and we're gonna win the conference. That's what I told her every single season when we started. Even if the season before we had 5 wins or whatever, I told her every year we're gonna win the conference and you're gonna win coach of the year. But that's just the belief that you have. You know what I mean? You have to have some sort of belief in order to have it. Like, the saying where they say, like fake it till you make it. You gotta have that belief and admit those positive things out there that you want to happen. So I credit it towards that. You know what I mean?
What other gigs were you working at this time? Like,
so I was working at South Bronx United at one point, doing city and community work. Who's affiliated with NYCFC at the time, the MLS team, who just won their first MLS Cup. So shout out to them. But so I was working in the South Bronx. That would be down at John Jay. Then I was working one time at the Kings Bay Y. So I was taking the D train all the way up from central Manhattan all the way out into like Sheepshead Bay, Coney Island area. Like it's a grind in order to do things as administrative assistant and in this time. But these are some of the things that you have to do to, work your way and progress your way up.
So you had practice 7 a.m.
to 9, yeah. And we kept that time all the years because when myself and Casey started, we weren't full time. Right. We were part time. So we worked at the New York Cosmos together, actually, and that's my associate head coach, Agatha Sensories. He worked at the New York Cosmos too. So through our relationships, that's how sort of like we came together at John Jay. So we had to work other jobs. Like we were out after maybe 10 o'clock, leave school and then go to our other jobs and commute and so forth.
And then go back for a game someday.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's really...
People don't know that, man.
No.
Like, that's an impressive part of your journey. So when I think of the championship that you won, I'm like, wow, that's not just that season.
Many
That
seasons, many seasons, bruv. Many, and you have to do many things in order to elevate and progress yourself. Like I got my master's from Brooklyn College at the time. I was gonna play on the team too, on the men's soccer team. I made the team. Coach Raleigh Hensford, he was the coach at that time when I was doing my master's there. But I had to make a decision, like classes and practice, and then game time. They were like a little bit conflicting. And like soccer is something I love, football is something I love. You know what I mean? And I didn't have the opportunity to play in my undergrad years at SUNY Plattsburgh and SUNY Oswego, where I did my undergrad. So I was going to really do it at Brooklyn College, you know, and get that collegiate experience in playing. But it just didn't really align with my scholastic responsibilities. So I think when the opportunity presented itself, I was really like, all right, let me, you know, get into this and see what I can do.
it's been a journey.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to you a journey that took you to England
Yeah.
after you got your master's.
From Brooklyn College, yeah.
You went to England to get a coaching certificate.
Yeah, to get start off my coaching licenses, my first level FA coaching badge. And to me, it was always like football is bigger. Like I grew up on soccer, you know what I mean? You know how some people here in America a little bit late. It's not the most popular sport here in America.
Right.
But to me, it always is. And I think this is always this perception when you have people from other countries where soccer is a more predominant sport there, and they come to America and they always think like, oh, like they know everything, you know, just because it comes from that country, it's more predominant in that country. Like you would say, if myself or you were going over to a European country and teaching basketball, they would think you have more expertise.
Because we're from America, right?
Because you're from America. But I think that's not the case. It's all about your passion, your drive, your love of the game, how you study it. Like you eat and sleep football. Like I eat and sleep football. You know what I mean?
This is a phenomenal part of your story, though. You know what I'm saying? Because you graduate, you want a career in soccer, so you go to England.
Yeah.
Nobody called you to go over there. You packed your bag on your own dime.
And I said that. I said once I finished my master, I always said that. I'm like one person big about putting things on words. Word sound power is crucial. Well,
Right.
You know that. Word sound power. I said, I was like, yo, I'm going to England after I finish my master's. I'm going to move over there, whatever, and see what happens.
How much time did you spend over there?
Like 6 to 8 months I spent over there.
And you got your coaching.
I got my first level coaching badge. So there's different levels, and then there's different UEFA levels of professional coaching licenses. So I always thought like the U.S. has their own coaching soccer federation licenses that you have to go through. But I think throughout the process, they made getting your licenses as coaches so hard for people here in America with the cost price of it first and foremost. So you don't give people the opportunity to become coaches unless you have a little bit of this,
some money,
and then the opportunities aren't afforded to maybe people like myself or people of color, and the foremost to get involved in coaching when there's a big need for it.
Right.
You see at the professional level, there's a lot of people of color who play at the highest levels who look like us, but sometimes don't get the opportunity. Either there's men or women, or even at the collegiate level who don't get the opportunity because they're overlooked, or in the communities where they come from, they don't get the opportunity, or to go and play for a club. Some of the clubs in the city, the cost price is so high, you know, to play at a high level. So the club that I worked at, South Bronx United, for 8 years, and that gave me the opportunity to coach at John Jay, is one of those clubs where you have kids from different parts of the world, continents, whether South America, West Indies, Europe, or Africa and so forth. Kids who are talented, but then you come put them in a system where they get to play high caliber soccer, and they get the educational piece of getting prepared to go to college and so forth. So I think those things helped shape my mind into thinking like, all right, the American coaching like licensing system is okay, but if I'm gonna do it, I might as well go get the European license and come back and have the highest one
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what are people gonna tell me about having that? Like when you do it. So that's always been a goal of mine. So I went over there, did it, spent a couple times on some sofas, a couple times with friends.
Like this is real. This the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, and like family and so forth.
Making it work.
Yeah, so I spent some time up in Liverpool, as well, Reading.
So hold on, Johnny. What's that training like to get these certificates? You get up every day and have to go.
So sometimes it's like 2 days out the week, and then it's different modules and things you have to go through, and then you go in for the educational session where you're learning different things, and then sometimes you break out and then you have to present and do a different session and so forth like that. So it's about a month, 2 months and a half, and you come in the weeks and you just do like a report like school. You know what I mean?
What was it like being immersed in the European soccer culture, like to see it firsthand?
Well, it wasn't like my first time seeing it, but I think for me it's always a cool experience because I love it. You know what I mean? Being in Liverpool, he called me a Scouser.
What's that?
Scouser is just basically a Liverpool person, you know, a Scouser.
That's your team?
I am a Liverpool fan. There's two teams in Liverpool, Everton and Liverpool. There's a red and a blue, so I'm definitely a red. But it's just definitely when you're from another country going into Europe, like they're very supportive, welcoming, and opening. And sometimes they're surprised I know so much about football and soccer. But it's the world's most popular sport, as they say. You know, helps bridge a lot of gaps.
I got my doctorate last year in sport management. Thank you. We went to Germany and the Netherlands.
Right.
And to see that culture over there, soccer, like it's phenomenal. Even if you're not a fan of the sport, to sit there and watch people devoted, father, son, wife, like the fire that they feel for that sport was truly amazing to watch, man. And when I heard that part of your story, like, dog, that's fearless. That's what it take to go get what you want.
But you know why that happened, right?
What's that?
So I wasn't getting opportunities here because there's so much hurdles you have to climb over. Some people don't know. So if I was to tell you, bro, like I worked for the New York Red Bulls, which is another MLS team.
Yep, in Jersey.
I volunteered for them for 2 seasons, marketing, volunteer, no pay, nothing, experience. To where I worked so hard, I could show up to the arena in those 2-year span and not have to show a badge just because the security knew who I was. That's how hard I was going in there.
Yeah.
That's to show you make relationships, you build bonds with people, people see your work ethic. That's what it takes in order to make it. But long story, let me hold you. I was there volunteering to get an internship. I finally got the opportunity to get an internship there as a marketing intern.
Right.
Somebody else who had an opportunity, who was already an intern, messed it up by doing something foolish as a grad student. And then supposedly they said, we cannot offer you the internship because of this happened and this and that, and the marketing manager. So mind you, imagine you working for 2 years to get something. You finally get it, the opportunity, but it doesn't happen because somebody else who had an opportunity, who probably didn't have to work as hard as me, had it, but squandered it because it's something regular for them. It's just another opportunity, like a job, like a summer thing for them. But not knowing that the things that you do have big decisions and implications on what you want to do, how they affect your life. So like that crushed me during that time. And when you work so hard for something, and then I was like, I'm gonna go over there, do it. Like nothing's gonna stop me, continue to do it. Like, cause I knew I was in. Like I was in, I was like, yeah, I'm an intern. And I knew that would only help to progress on my path of
For sure.
working in professional sports and in soccer along that level. But every decision, everything happens for a reason, you know what I mean? So that really drove me to go overseas, start my coaching license and then came back. And then during that time, it's very difficult, as not being a citizen of the UK or so forth, not having visas, certain things, getting sponsorship. It was difficult, you know what I mean? Not working, trying to find work. trying to get a fair opportunity. You really don't get that unless you know somebody or some form of nepotism,
Right.
in some capacity, someone helping you. So the opportunity came like with the New York Cosmos at the time. They were coming back up into existence.
One of the most iconic brands in U.S. soccer history, and they had put together a team out in Long Island.
Yeah. Pele, being one of those influential figures with the New York Cosmos. And then I applied for a training development job. And then I got hired as one of the first coaches training development program when they came back into existence. So
That why you came back to the U.S.?
yeah, that's why I came back. So I started there, and I say like the rest is really history along that journey. But I definitely, in the past year, I was gonna get back to Germany. I was trying to go over there and then continue my coaching
Your training.
licensing. But COVID really changed up. But I want to plan to do that into 2022 or within the next year. Just go back and continue.
Your training licenses is one in goalkeeping?
No, I have like a smaller one, like a USF one, like a introduction, like youth one. But
In goalkeeping, okay. Because I was reading something and they said, and you mentioned it here, that your team did not allow a goal
yeah,
all season in conference play.
yeah,
They were crediting you for your backline defense and your team's backline defense.
yeah.
That's
Go ahead.
that's a staple for your team.
Yeah, I was blessed to get one of my goalkeepers, grad students. I was blessed to get both of my goalkeepers this year who were transfers. Like through the COVID year, I lost 3 of my goalkeepers from seniors, and then one actually graduated early. And she just finished the police academy this past week, too as well. So during that COVID year, I lost 3, graduated 3. I had no goalkeepers coming in. Recruiting during that time was very difficult. Kids can't come see the school. I lost recruits from, them just not being able to come to New York, see the campus, seeing if they could see themselves living in New York. But credit to them, I don't blame them, for making that decision.
Yeah.
It was a tough time. So I knew, again, I was like, I need a goalkeeper. I need a goalkeeper. I was having anxiety, like some nights, like really trying to get a team together who was going to be on this roster. So I got one goalkeeper transfer come in from New Jersey. She was a blessing to come in, so I knew that was right away. I had one. And then we talk about relationships, right? And building and the relationships that you have with people and being a good person. My second goalkeeper that I got in was a grad transfer. She went to Mount St. Mary up in Newburgh.
Yeah.
The Knights. So the head coach there, Chris Lynn, called me one day. He's like, Ajani, it's like, I know talking you need a goalkeeper. It's like, I have somebody for you. I was like, oh, really? She's like, this young lady, starting goalkeeper, Jamaican descent, so forth, 5'10", so forth, came in. She was looking at grad school, psychology, forensic. I told her, I know the perfect place.
Wow.
And then mentioned me and John Jay, and that was it. And then we talked during that time, 2021. She applied, got in, for grad school, so forth. And she's one of the reasons why, we went undefeated in conference play. I call her Jumpman. She's like phenomenal one, and she could definitely play professional if she wanted to. Was gonna have a trial with the Jamaican national team for the women's team coming up, so hopefully we can get her, back on that path as well. So she credit her. Both of my goalkeepers I credit, and then my backline I got another transfer from Mount St. Vincent, which is in Bronxville, New York, in the Skyline Conference as well. Center back, came in right away, started all our games. So she was a great pickup as well. So I credit that maybe down to, I think, the relationships that you have with other coaches throughout the years.
That's dope.
As assistant.
For him to pick up the phone and call you?
Yeah, and this is another head coach, and I consider him probably one of my mentors, you know what I mean, who's been around a long time within the game and so forth. And I think that's one good thing, to have relationships with other coaches, because you can build off each other. Yeah. Coach, if you need something, or if you find the right place for a player who may need to transfer, or any freshmen coming in and so forth, you can always pick up the phone and call somebody. But I know there's coaches, like if you have, if they're maybe bad personalities or bad attitudes, some coaches aren't gonna pick up the phone or maybe send their players
For sure.
to that program or to that institution.
For sure.
So
For sure. Recruiting. I was thinking about you and recruiting. You know, if you just listening to this podcast, you don't see my man Johnny Rastaman. And I look at your roster, you know, for one, it's women, different gender, and not many of them are from our side of the tracks. You know, what's it like recruiting people from different culture, different socioeconomic backgrounds? Like, what's that like going into these people's houses and asking them to entrust you with their daughter's athletic career?
first, it does take a lot of trust, and key thing I learned about the recruiting process is always be yourself. Like, don't try to be something you're not, oversell something or be this person who you want. And even on recruiting visits or so forth, I talk to the players I'm recruiting. I was like, the questions that you ask me or so forth, ask the players that and see if like, is the coach BSing you? Am I bullshitting you or so forth? Or is this the person that you're seeing? Like, can't be too good to true. Like, he's always so positive or so forth. I'm passionate, yes. I'm emotional, but I'm very much about that positive progression or that mindset that players need to have. Just like you said, the unity. I'm not about like drama, those things like that. I like the energy to be positive, copacetic. You know, things need to be good, like good feng shui and so forth. But I think with including, I'm always honest and like socially, I always ask about the players like, how can you contribute to the team on and off the field, right? Not just on the field, but off the field. How are you as a person? What your career field? What do you want to get into? I'm trying to prepare these ladies to be the best socially once they get out of this whole bubble. You know what I mean? How are they going to interact with different people from all different races, cultures?
Have you ever find yourself in a situation where you felt intimidated? Because the soccer aspect is one thing, but you're also a NCAA administrator, a school administrator. You know, that's a different room sometimes. That's suits and ties and stuff. And people from outside the tracks may not always be comfortable in that environment. You ever found yourself like intimidated?
It can feel different. I don't think intimidating, because I know my worth and my value. Like,
There you go.
And that's something I always preach to my players. And my philosophy, that's big. Like, coming in, they're gonna hear that. You know your worth and your value. Like, you know who you are as a person. Like, even if you're not sure about something, still know that you're probably supposed to be there. Like, if you have an opportunity for a job and you don't get it, but you were considered for it, you know what I mean? So you're worthy or you're valuable of something, of at least you reach there, and even if you get the job.
Where'd you get that from? Because I'm still getting there. You know what I'm saying? Understanding your worth and your value came a long way. I ain't
don't-
always had that. Where'd that
I
come
don't
from?
even know. Honestly, it came out of out of thin air. I remember I was having a conversation with one of my players one time. We were driving to a game, and I think he was just talking about something about confidence. I'm like, you know who you are, like as a person. Like, you know, you're smart, you're funny, you know, you're ambitious. Like, you should be proud of who you are, like what you represent. I think that's something I learned along the way, even before people can see just my physical appearances of who I am. But once people get to know you, I think all the face levels, what people see goes out the window, and people see you as who you are as a person. I had to do that a lot, but not like forcibly, but naturally, just who I am, because people may seem to think like, oh, like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
And fit those stereotypes to
Yeah.
me. But I think I've never had that come up to where I felt threatened or felt aggrieved to people saying like, oh, how I look is, you know, fit in the stereotype. But I think it's who I am and how you portray yourself of the person that you are. So I'm always presenting myself as positive, hardworking, and that's who I am. Like, I'm always caring. I'm willing to help out all different types of people. I'm a team player, so forth. But for me, I like to have a good time, like a good laugh. You know what I mean? Like, keep the energy not too serious. But when it's time to be serious, like you said, in those rooms, in those meetings, like, you have to be. It can seem different being in those rooms, but know that you're supposed to be there. I was at the athletic the NCAA convention in Anaheim back in 2020, right before the break came with COVID, and we were all out there, administrators, admin, from John Jay, all the different conferences, schools, some other peers. And then we were in this meeting with the conference, the CUNYAC, all other ADs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. You see all the different mixtures of people, and it's diverse in there. You know what I mean? But I'm sitting in there, I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. You
That's
know what
what's
I mean?
up.
And then people will invite you or bring you to things if they believe, like you say, you have worth or value. Like, I have this thing at school where I feel like I'm always the one who's not making contributions, but like I always have some sort of idea or something like that. So, I mean, if you can present something good or rationale, then you're always going to be present.
My audience may remember when I was talking about one of the other athletic directors in the conference, but I was talking about the NCAA has a diversity and inclusion grant that schools can apply for to create a position.
Apply for it.
And John Jay applied for it with you in mind.
Because of my worth and my value. Because I was there. First, it started with graphics, like just for my team, women's soccer. I was turning up the Instagram. We was turning up Instagram, birthday shouts, different things we were turning up. And then they were saying, like, oh, like, your work is good. And then I paid it forward to, my head coach, Casey. She was always an advocate for myself professionally to progress. You know what I mean? So always got to hail her up and big her up for that. But it's naturally, not anything that's
forced.
She felt like she had to do, like, oh, like, give him an opportunity. It was just natural, like, yo, he's good at this. Like, why is he doing this? Like, y'all need some help. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, we could do this collectively as athletic department program get better. It started as that, doing some graphics. Then I bust out the Hall of Fame we had for John Jay. We did a whole rebranding for Hall of Fame. Graphics, imagery, I bust that out.
So you creating your worth.
We bust that out for them, and they were like, oh, that's cool. And then it started from there. Like, I became an administrator, so I was working in the office, like front office, so forth, just learning the different aspects of the business side of it from our now current athletic director, Kat Alves, so I was working with her directly, so forth. And then I started doing more things, PA announcing, basketball games, game day things like that. Social media stuff. I was doing little teaser videos, filming stuff on my iPhone, little things, and editing and showing just from my background of, my bachelor's of my broadcasting.
And you just doing this. Nobody asking you. It's not a paycheck associated with yet. You just creating your worth, showing people that you are value. And then that's when they apply for that grant to help
and then
offset your income.
I found out about it, and then they were like, yo, they're applying for this. They got the grant. Applied for it, and then that's how it became full time. And then even after the grant was over, and it was doing a weird time during the pandemic, this grant allows you to go on different educational retreats, give you professional development, and shout out my cohorts as well. These are my peers. I have a close knit group of individuals, about 8 of us who became really good friends. All different institutions from Division 1, who started Division 3, but they've moved on and so forth around the country. And we always talked and kept in contact during that time. So when, like, even the pandemic, it stopped, it came about, we were talking about, like, the grant was over, like, what the moves people were going to be making. A lot of them got some full-time. The departments kept them on, like, after the grant. And, the former athletic director, the intern, Mark Francis, told me at the time, like, the president, Carol Mason, she was working towards it. They saw, like, the value of what I have, and the grant has done. All the money's gone to keep that, to get that money and get that funding in there, for me to keep my position. I think it helps too as well, like having a coach. I think in some of your podcasts, your colleague from Brooklyn College, head coach.
Oh, Jeffrey Jean Baptiste.
You know what I mean? Having a coach there, right, full time, plays big with having for the student athletes. For sure. If your office is open all the time, if a student athlete goes to your office and they see it locked up and they're like, damn, that size, like, damn, I wish coach was gonna be there. Like, even if it's just to sit down and relax, not even talk, just to some place to go different.
Space.
Safe space. Exactly. So, having full-time coaches there in the meantime, I think it's very significant to the success. of your program.
Yo, you done a lot.
I'm just trying. I'm just one person. Like, I'm trying.
I see you, man. But that confidence thing, and I went to speak to a minister out in Indianapolis, and he talks about knowledge of self. That's no small thing. Ajani and I went to high school together. You
Yo,
know,
big up the high.
I didn't
Do or
see
die.
I didn't see him for a long time, and then one day I'm standing in the cafe at my corner. I turn to my left, and here he is drinking his coffee. And we catch up. I learned that he's on his path to be a soccer coach. He's an assistant at John Jay, and I was just so proud of him being from where we from, and he is on that level, a coach, an administrator, NCAA official. And I said to him, "Yo, don't let him cut your hair." Serious.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people feel like they got to conform to ascend. So for you to have that confidence is amazing. Do you see in young folks that they don't always have that confidence? They may be lost. They may not understand how they fit in a room. And what can we do to help instill that in these young athletes?
Sometimes they don't see it because maybe the lessons that they're learning don't necessarily pertain to that right away. Maybe they're not getting it from their parents or the relationships that they have. But I think it definitely comes from one-to-ones like us, the coaches, administrators, or even professionals or professors or teachers that, a lot of time you spend most of the day with those people at school more than like your parents or your loved ones at home. So I think learning that confidence definitely comes from the ones that you're close to, the experiences that you go through, whether it's a positive or a negative result, you still have to learn from those things. So I think that that confidence, it's learned over time, because I definitely didn't have that confidence. Like, I'd say at the high, I didn't have that confidence. Like going from high school, even middle school, like people would probably see me now, like they'd be commenting like, "Yo, that's a goat." Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's my guy. Like AJ or Johnny, you know what I mean? Like I know most of the student athletes at John Jay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
I make it like my duty to get to know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't always have that. I think there's something you learn over time. I guess you go through that ugly duckling phase, as they say, you know what I mean? Like when you're younger, like there's certain things you don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I see a lot of these young people, they just trying to find their way. Like,
yeah, it is till you find your way. And sometimes that's with having a friend, maybe a good friend that's always there for you. And, you're having those reasonings, those conversations, and you're learning from that. But I think once you get to a certain level, like in college, and if you're part of a team or so forth, like you're learning those lessons, like you're having those little conversations, whether it's a little 3-minute conversation. Some of those conversations are vital for some of these young teens. And remember, some of them are still young teens, like coming into college and playing and trying to perform at a high level, right away. Like we think like they're in their 20s. Like, no, some of them are teenagers and early adults. So it's something to learn along the way, but you definitely have to be there, I think, to help guide them and support them. Just having those key positive figures. Sometimes you may find them, and I don't know. I've heard it a lot after this past season. Some of the players tell me before, they're like, "Oh, I never had a coach like you. Like you're invested. Like you really care about us. Like not just about playing, but you care about us. Like you make it a duty. Like believe it or not, like we appreciate it. We see those little things that you do, you know what I mean? And so forth. Then just maybe some coaches you hear about, and their style is different. Like it's always just like very regiment. This. Pardon me. It's just this regiment. You can't really talk to them. Some players feel scared to come up and talk to the head coach. You should never feel afraid to talk to your head coach. You know what I mean? You may have little disagreements. You might not meet eye to eye, but you should be able to respect each other
For sure.
the same way. So I think it's all about the environment. And then once those players or those young adults get into that environment, they have some positive figures around them, I think that confidence grows into you. But I think there's maybe a certain point that you reach in your life, like an awakening you have, where that confidence will come with you. But it definitely comes from the experiences and the people around you that you have.
Got you. I was looking on the website today.
Yeah.
They still have you listed as an interim
Interim,
head coach, man. What's the future looking like? What did the school president, athletic director, what did they say after the championship, man? How we gonna get that interim tag removed and get
That's
you
what
there full time, brother?
That's what I was hearing all throughout the watching back the game. Interim. Even after the game, some people were like, "Yo, contract talks."
For sure.
After winning the chip, I let my agent handle it. But no, like the president, she was very supportive. The AD, Kat Alves, I think they want to keep me at John Jay. Position is out there. I already had to reapply for it. Some interviews coming up into the new year. So we'll see how that goes. But my intention and my plan is to be there at John Jay, and just I want to get that hat trick. You know what I mean?
3 in a row.
For the people out there, the hat trick is 3. Trying to get that and just continue to build something positive for these young women who I think deserve it. Deserve a lot of what's coming towards them.
We look forward to that, man. I'll tell you, I'm gonna have to pull up to one of the games. I was gonna pull up to the championship game, but COVID, they didn't have.
They would have had you outside the gate. I don't know if they. I don't know if they allowed you at Brooklyn College at the premises. One of my old security guards, he was there. He was like, "Yo, walk on." The guy by the web entrance over there. He seen me over there, but yeah, it's definitely good, man. My brother, you definitely doing some great things.
I'm trying, man. Did you see I had Ruth Lovelace on?
Yes. Yo, shout out Ruth, man. I like going to the high and being like the ball capital like Brooklyn is in New York City, the Mecca. Like, you used to go to the high. You used to always play ball like during gym time. Maybe not during your class. You snuck out. You went into the gym. Yeah. Like, ball was always going on. Like, and Miss Lovelace, I'm about to call her Miss Lovelace, right? That's just, she was very influential, I think, to a lot of students' success. Even if she wasn't your coach or your direct PE teacher, there are a lot of different teachers at that school. Definitely PE, who I felt like have a positive impact on my life. And Ruth was one of those people, like those figures, strong women, strong leaders, who's out there who definitely deserves all the success that has come her way.
Me and Ajani Clunie, proud Kangaroos, 1999 to 2003.
Yeah.
One of the reasons
crazy.
One of the reasons I wanted to do the Lovelace podcast is because I wanted to put the name Dr. Frank Mickens out there too.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it like being in the high during that period? What impact did people like Dr. Frank Mickens and Ruth Lovelace have on who you are today as a coach?
Dress for success, man. That's one of the things I remember. I grew up in East Flatbush, some parts of Park Slope too as well, growing up. So I went to everything my sister went. Like, she went to Midwood. She went to Philippa Schuyler. I went to Schuyler. She went to Midwood. I went to go to Midwood. I live right by the junction. So I was go to Midwood. Then I know my mom and stepdad was like, "Yo, go to Boys and Girls High." So he knew about Frank Mickens, my stepfather. So I ended up going to the high. And I think this is probably one of the best decisions I made in my life. I don't know if myself if I went to Midwood, how it would have turned out. Yeah. Nothing wrong with Midwood, but the high, I just think culturally, for me, street smarts, everything, as a teenager, learning like progression, like I knew because of the high, like dress for success, like shirt and tie,
Monday
slacks,
and Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday. I had my Clarks on my shoes, fresh. Everybody with their tie, but then everybody always did their own little style, dress for success after a while. But those are the things that are important for me. I had to iron my clothes, make sure my stuff is pressed. Like, you gotta coming in late. You going through the next entrance, you know what I mean? Through the side entrance, Dr. Bogello and some of those people that were there who were hard on you, but for a reason, you know what I mean? So that you can make it out, so that you could do something. And there's so much people from the high now that I know are doing well. and so forth in their professional careers and that you see around. And it makes me feel so good
Yeah.
to see people from the high like yourself, and the ones I see along the way that, you see this progression when you're like a young teenager and then growing up now. You're like, you still see a little bit of glimpse of that, but you're like,
Yeah.
all those things help you become a better person. Because of Mickens and learning those things, I wouldn't have learned and known about being poised, on time,
Yeah.
presentable, and so forth, and the importance of what it means to be that and presenting yourself to the public.
There was a standard in that building, man.
Yeah.
And you were not going to slack.
Nah.
It was crazy. And all of the staff was really from where we were from, too. That was unique, too.
Yeah.
In a New York City public school,
Yeah.
to see people like us that were professional, that had a standard, that carried themselves well, like, yo, we didn't have any excuse.
No excuse.
You know what I'm saying? You was going to meet the standard, and that was it. There was nothing else. You had to get it done. You talk about growing up in Park Slope. Who was in the house when you were growing up? Mom? Stepdad?
Yeah, my dad, when I was younger, my parents were together in Park Slope, then separated. Then I went to live with my mom. My dad's still around. So both my parents my mom and dad were in my life, both there. But there's anything, you spend some weekends and so forth. And then I made that transition from high school to going to live with my dad during that time around 2001, like right on 9/11 and so forth. And then from there, just stayed with my dad, and then went from college towards there.
Got you. Where's your family from?
Jamaican Chinese descent. Both my parents Jamaican. Mom's side Chinese descent, Jamaican. Yeah, so Caribbean.
So who put that soccer in your life?
I'd say my dad.
Yeah.
Like definitely my dad was heavy influence. He went to Baruch. That's where my parents met, at Baruch.
Wow.
Funny enough, oddly enough. Once they migrated here to America, both went to college and met at Baruch. My dad played soccer there. And that was it. Like soccer was always big for me, so he put that into me. He should have probably started me off a little bit younger, playing at like 10, but I don't hold anything against him out of that. It's what you make.
So were you the young kid that was getting up and watching the English football stuff on the weekends?
Yeah, I was watching. I remember I was watching all that when you could get the channels that would show it and so forth. I remember back in '98 when Jamaica was qualifying. When they qualified for the World Cup, like we would travel down to DC, RFK Stadium, all over the East Coast to go and see the Reggae Boys qualify for the World Cup.
As a youngster, when you watching this big time soccer, are you asking yourself how come America doesn't embrace the sport? Like, why the difference?
I know I had a friend in high school at the high who always said like soccer's gonna be the world's most biggest sport, like at the time. And I think the time like the World Cup was playing in Korea, and like, I mean, these bad kids don't do this, but I mean, there was a time I think we were closest. Like we would leave school and go and watch the World Cup. Like during that time, it's the World Cup going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And other people wouldn't know that's going on,
Right.
or be so much interested into it. I just think it took a little time. I think with this country, it's about the capitalism of the money of what they can see in front of them. Like soccer's the world's, it's the highest grossing sport throughout the world. Like highest paid players, Messi and Ronaldo. You know how much they're making? Like on the list, you know how much some soccer players are making a week? £200,000 a week, bruv. You know how much that is in US dollars. So I think it's a way until they figured out how to make it lucrative for them to make money. But I think it's still probably like the 5th most popular sport here in this country.
For sure.
Because I mean, basketball is dominant.
Yeah.
NFL
And American football.
It's always going to be the most dominant sport.
That's got to be frustrating for somebody that loves the sport, like being in this country.
It is frustrating because whenever the World Cup comes around or the big European competitions, or like you see now, English Premier League is one of the biggest leagues within the world, and a lot of people wake up on Saturday mornings to watch it on NBCSN, USA, a lot of different channels which show it here, and it's big money. They cannot tell you that it's not making money and people aren't watching it here, but I think we have a lot of sports to choose from here in the country, so that's why a lot of entertainment features to look at. So I think that's probably why it's not the most popular. There's no timeout, so there's really no advertisement. The advertising aspect of it is why they can't make any money. But my thing is that I think there's a whole big discrepancy amongst the men and women in soccer, in the world of football. Like the women's national team
In America?
yeah, it's probably one of the most successful soccer teams or professional teams there's ever been
For sure.
for the country. And
On the flip side, the men sometimes don't even qualify for the
they
World
didn't
Cup.
qualify for the last one. And
Why the discrepancy? I got a theory. Real quick, one of my professors at the doctorate program, he was from England. He's a soccer fanatic,
Yeah.
and I said, man, it's got to be frustrating for you to be such a big soccer fan, and you're working here in America where the men barely qualify. He said, "Well, I work in women's soccer because he works at some USA women's soccer. We're the best in the world."
Yeah.
And I never thought about that. I was like, dang, the women are the best in the world. Well, my theory is, even though America has a long way to go in how it treats women, it's one of the more liberal countries in the world, and the women are free to do what they want, compete in sports, where in some countries women can't even walk into a soccer stadium and watch a match.
that is true.
So I think women capitalize because the talent pool or the competition is not as great. Please don't shoot me for that.
Could be. I agree to the point where, like, the talent pool is there, but I think talent's there. They just don't look for it. Like, there's a lot of politics and.
No, I'm talking about in other countries,
Oh.
like they're not competing as hard in women's sports as we are in America.
Oh yeah, just I think because the resources, they're not. Some of the federations, they aren't putting the resources towards the upliftment and development of girls and women's sport. Like, what you need is at the grassroots level. That's how anything becomes successful. At the grassroots level, you have to build up from the ground up. So, like the academy level, you have to build and put a foundation, a structure in place in order. It's like farming. You have to first plant, and you reap the crops, and then you have to plant again. Like, it has to be a continuous thing. You have to put something in there. But I think some of the countries don't put
Those resources in.
the emphasis in for the women.
Didn't recently the Jamaican women's team went on a run, and that was funded by one of Bob Marley's daughters.
Yeah, Cedella Marley. Yeah.
So
So reggae girls. So they made the World Cup, the last one, and it was in France. And then it's come down to politics with CONCACAF and JFF, which is Jamaican Football Federation, and resources. You know what I mean? Where she had to basically fundraise and put up. And I think the coach at the time, he was basically a volunteer. Like, he wasn't getting paid or so forth for it. And then you have players from all different parts of the country who played in all different parts of the world, made the college level. Khadijah Shaw, and some other professional players who had to come together. They didn't have camps like how the U.S. women's national team would have and so forth. And you deal with all these obstacles and try to perform and build something, out of basically nothing. I just think they just need to put more respect on the women's game and so forth. Just make it equal. Like, my thing is just equality of it all. Like, I had an instance where I stated, why is some Division I coaches making they're making like $8 million, where you have some coaches at Division III level who's struggling, who are making like $2,000 a season, $3,000 a season. You know what I mean? Some head coaches making less, close to that, maybe even making $10,000. And you got a coach at Division I making $8 million for coaching football, and the reason why is because of television rights and money that you have. But the NCAA, as a big institution, cannot pool money and break it out down to the different divisions, Division III, and pool their resources to give a portion of the share to maybe a lot of the different schools and so forth. There's enough money for them to do that, but it's all a system of different things, which is another topic for like another day.
Yeah.
Of the system of how it is. But
with the USA men, them not qualifying for the World Cup was a great embarrassment.
yeah,
America is supposed to be the best in the world, and the World Cup is like the world's party. So people get crazy over this. And America didn't even qualify.
yeah.
On my trip to Europe, I feel like I figured out why.
And it's too arrogant sometimes.
No, it's well, that too. It's the academies.
Yeah.
In Europe, these young men, 13, 14 years old, they professional soccer players.
Yeah.
They go to these academies where they do soccer and then they read some books and get the education, but they are professional athletes. America can't compete with that, man. What do you think?
No, and there's been a big influx now of some younger players who are coming up through those academies who are good. But then in order to get better, you have to go overseas to so forth. Like you can start off, and there's nothing wrong with the kind of. I just think it's the level, like a natural level in Europe. Like it's what they play. Like they're not playing else. It's what they play. It's football all the time. So there's some young players here who've come from the MLS systems, who've gone overseas, have done very well, playing like Claudio Reyna's son, Gio Reyna, who started NYCFC in the academy program, and then came up. Now he's playing at Borussia Dortmund, which is one of the big clubs in Germany. So for a lot of good players have come through that club, and a lot of different Americans playing in Spain, a couple playing in the English Premier League now and so forth. But I think you have to sort of like step out in order to advance, and progress and get better. But I think there's a lot of good talent in the level and the pool levels and EDPs and NCL. There's a whole bunch of different leagues and stuff at the club level that gets in like the highest level, what you play at ODP and so forth. But I think, again, it comes down to the opportunity, where some players get more of an opportunity because of their name, maybe system, coach, friends of a friend who tells, and then maybe some talented players who probably come from a lower income neighborhood or so forth, and they're not getting an opportunity, maybe just as talented
Right.
as some other players, but they don't get it. Some that comes to social status, racial status, I feel plays into that, into a part of it too.
They say in America that it's expensive to play soccer at the youth level.
Yeah.
And again, going back to these academies, these youngsters are identified at a young age. They thrown in the academy and they train all day. That's hard for America to compete with in the sport of soccer. And I see it happening in basketball now too. Luka Doncic, who came into the league and was a pro from the jump, was very successful from the jump of playing against grown men. Yeah, because he was playing since he was like 13 as a pro. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a 2-time MVP. He ain't go to the NCAA. He been a pro since he was a youngster. And when I saw that model firsthand when I went to Europe, I'm like, oh, that's why America's not even getting
just
close.
Just like LaMelo.
Yeah.
He went and played professional first, and
Yeah.
then I think he came out
Yeah,
better.
rookie of the year. Now he doing his thing, son.
Yeah.
They pro since young age. That's why I get mad when people bash the NCAA for not paying athletes. Like in Europe, there is no high school sports. There is no amateurism.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not the NCAA that's getting over. We need to fix the whole thing. So my man Ajani is not only the conference coach of the year, but he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have your own radio station, globalmeds.net.
Global Meds Radio, yeah.
MEDZ. Now you studied broadcasting in college, undergrad.
Yeah. Broadcasting, communications.
That was always the goal to have your own radio station?
Nah, not really. Like I remember growing up, always fortunate enough see like Stuart Scott on Sports Center, see him as an announcer, and I was like, yo, like that always seems so cool to do. Not the easiest thing to do, but I always admired him for what he did and how he presented sports in that time with people and interacting. So when I went to Oswego, and actually probably one of the best broadcasting schools they have, where Linda Cohn came from ESPN, Steve Levy from ESPN went there, Al Roker went there as well. So good in terms of broadcasting wise. So when I was there, I started a radio show. When I was there at college, I was DJing parties. Before I pledged, I remember Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated as well. That's why I pledged at that chapter up there. So I was just involved in music a lot, during that time. Like I said, doing the major events and so forth. And then after the radio show, after I finished college, I did some friends who he started like his own radio thing down in the city. So I was doing that, trying to stay involved. Like when I was DJing through grad school, I was just on the side, not anything like major or big. And then one day I decided, somebody says like, yo, you should just, instead of doing a radio show, like do your own like station or something. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know like what to entail or so forth. But for me, I was always tired of listening to like the regular radio and hearing like the same song like 4 times in the same hour.
For sure.
Like and then you go on the next station, the same genre, and you'd hear the same song like maybe 3 minutes later after you heard it from the next station when you switched it over.
Yeah.
So obviously that program aspect, I was like, I can't deal with this. So I started internet radio, like started off slow, any process, learning how it is. And it's all about commitment and like 100%, like what you put into it is what you'll get from it. So for me, starting at that time, it was early, balancing in like my coaching career and then working and spending that time with the radio. It's a big ask, to balance that.
So you have talk shows?
Yeah, so we have some guests who do talk shows on like health and wellness, different range of topics, news topics throughout the week and so forth that we had in the past.
But you also got music too.
Yeah.
You got a nice little mix.
Yeah.
So you recruiting personalities.
Yeah.
You set schedules. Your mom used to have a show on it, didn't she?
Yeah, she still has a show. And I have other people who started the station who aren't currently on the station, who started as like radio host personalities and then went on to other stations and doing well now, so forth. So I consider this, I wouldn't say like underground, but like more like the start community-based internet radio, there for the people, for the internet. But me, I look for as an opportunity, a platform for people to express themselves, whichever way they want. And that was always the main thing for me, just something where you can express yourself, your art, whatever you feel is important to you.
So how do you attract new listeners? How do you, I guess, make a living out of a radio station in 2021?
I think a lot of it's advertisement, that you can make most of your money from advertisement. Getting new listeners or followers, I think, has to do with word of mouth too, along with social media and so forth. Surprisingly enough, I'll see like some things from our statistics where you get like some listeners from like Germany or Finland.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm like, I don't know like how they listen or like why, but to me it feels good, when you know that someone's listening or someone's paying attention to what you're doing, and so forth. I always think there's a space for everybody. You know what I mean?
You got an advertising package? Can I advertise for like a month or something?
Yeah, I got an advertising package. You could do something.
Yeah. All right, bet.
And that's where that's where you start off too, even with this whole part. That's why it's always great to like see progression and see my friends and people like doing things that they love. Because some people didn't tell me I didn't start the radio, do something I love. Like, who never knows? You know what I mean? But it's impacted so much people. But
Ajani Clunie had a studio in my neighborhood, and he used to let me record episodes of WBH radio there.
Yeah.
I would be down there with my
remember.
man Fenton.
Yeah.
I would be down there with my man DA. Like, yo, I started this podcast, and I feel like I'm one of the richest men alive because of great relationships like this, man. You definitely did. So when you saw Skip Bayless on the episode, did you say like, yo, this started in my studio?
It's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like I see some players that I used to coach now. Like I have one player now. She's like a top model, yo.
Yeah.
Like top model. Like cover of Vogue, Bottega Veneta, like Louis, Gucci. I was in the train station going to practice one morning.
Yeah.
I see a whole ad for Gucci, 100 years. She in the ad for Gucci. I had to take a picture. I was like, yo, this is my motivation for the morning.
Yeah.
Yo, you motivated me. And this is players. I say that just because there's a lot that you can contribute and do, and you see people start off. It's not like where you start, it's like how you end, or like where you end up. So like the relationships, the people you meet, like you should feel good knowing that you played a part or impact
For sure.
in people's life. Don't take all the credit for
Yeah.
it. No, but know that along that journey, along that way, you did something to help with that, and you'll hear that from people. Maybe not in the moment, but you'll hear it along the way, and somehow, and that always makes you appreciate.
For sure. You have a live mix show on your station, right?
Yeah, Sundays 6 to 10 p.m.
And what's your DJ name?
Quest. They
Quest.
call me. Yeah.
And
Sometimes,
you up there mixing reggae?
mixing everything. Like my show is more like a new music mix show, so I try to mix like new songs that are coming out, just came out, will be hot on the charts later on. So like a variety mix show, pop, hip hop, R&B, reggae, some Afro beats.
You go out and
UK
do
mix.
parties and stuff?
I can't tell you the last time I DJ'd a party, but yeah, that's heavy. Whenever there's a time to parties or like baby showers, weddings, I've done all those events and done all that stuff before.
Talk to me about the craft of DJing. You never had to carry crates, did you?
Nah, I'm not that old.
Nah, you're
enough
not
to
that
carry
old.
crates.
Like that was kind of like that was getting phased out when we started to get old enough. But the craft of DJing and how has technology changed it? You know, with playlists and everybody got a laptop with Serato. Everybody think
But
they're a
everybody
DJ.
can't be a DJ.
Talk to me, Mr. Clunie.
I think it's more air. You gotta have a love for what you do, and it's all about energy. Like you can't come on DJing like, oh, rap. You can't play music with like no energy. Like your job is to keep the energy moving, reading the crowd, analyzing the crowd. It's like being a coach. Like you have to know when to make that sub, determine you switch up the song, playing it too long. You know what I mean? You have to keep it moving, inject some more energy into things like that. But with DJing, it took time. Like I remember I started DJing with a Dell desktop computer
Yeah.
at Plattsburgh. Like I lugged that joint into a party,
Yeah.
hooked it up, and like started DJing
That's crazy.
and shelled the party. You know what I mean? Same way. You gotta have. It takes time, I think, for it too, and like you gotta be on it, like to know the newest song, next thing. Don't just jump on it when it's like hot, things like that. But I love music too. That's like my next passion. Sometimes I talk about it, sometimes I don't, just because. Like Quest is not a different person. It is like a different person, like a different personality.
Yeah.
For myself, it's more like my DJ Monica. People say I have a good radio voice too as well, but sometimes I don't even like to tell my team like,
Yeah.
I'm playing on, like playing on the radio. It's like it's cool. They'll be like, yo, coach, oh, it's good, and they listen to my show sometimes.
How come you don't want to tell them sometimes? That's a different part of your life.
It's a part of my life. Like everything is a part. I'm not trying to hide it, but like I just try to not keep some things separate, but like know that, all right, this is like both are professional, but it's just a different aspect of my life. Whereas like you can be included, you know what I mean? But I don't want. This is not like who I am like all the time. You know what I mean? It's having a balance basically. You got to have that balance, I think. Into everything, because it could get messy.
It was interesting that you compared being a DJ to being a coach.
Yeah.
Like understanding the room.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence. Like that. I never thought about that. That's cool, man.
I just made that up. I didn't.
DJs really do though. You got to know when it's time to ramp it up, or I slow it down. Let everybody go get a drink or something. Like selector. Like y'all really in control of the party, man. That's dope. That's dope, man. Ajani Clunie, Conference Coach of the Year, City Champion, entrepreneur, DJ. You are someone that does the voice at some of the basketball games. Like, what's the goals, man? What's next? What's next on the to-do list? What are you after?
I want to get back to the chip. I want to win a game in the tournament. I definitely think we can do that as a program, as a team. Probably one of the first ones in CUNYAC. You know what I mean? Try and put our team, our city on the map, our conference on the map. Who knows? I want to get this tag off.
Interim tag, yeah.
You know, and then settle in fully. Um, and, you know, a couple goals of mine. My goal of my aspiration is to coach national team for Jamaica women's team, whether it's U20s or the senior team. So that's a goal of mine. I've always had. I've been putting it out there, connects people. I've been saying that for years. Now that's something I want to do just because of my heritage,
For
you
sure.
know, and where my family's from and so forth. And I love the game, and I feel like country like that could deserve, you know, some dedicated people to give some, you know, because with dedication, great results come from it. Um, who knows? End up at the Division 2 or Division 1 level, so forth. But it's just the opportunity. But I love the game. Whether it's being an administrator later on, you know, so forth. They always make that distinction. At Division 3, or if you go to another division, you have to decide whether you want to be administrator or coach. But I think you can be both.
Right.
Just have to have a good balance of it. And I think at what institution you're at too plays a big role.
My brother, I appreciate you a great deal, man.
You as well, man. It was a lot of fun. Cool. I was looking forward to this.
Yes.
But I appreciate you, man. Love always.
I appreciate you, brother. You're doing great things. The school is lucky to have you. Them young ladies are lucky to have you, son. I feel great pride when I see your name plastered places, see you doing things. And we just going to keep doing what we doing, man. Give me that advertising package, man, so I can have WBH Radio over globalmedsradio.net.
Got you.
That's WBH Radio. We out.